I try to every Wednesday at 6:30. I try to live stream, and I try to be doing something around my homestead, like weeding and stuff like that. I got the name Garden 30 from Nicole Sauce's Living Free in Tennessee podcast. She has a Garden 30 live stream she does on occasion. So, sorry about the background noise. The guy showed up to mow the neighbor's yard just a few minutes ago. But today we're going to be talking about the 12 permaculture principles according to David Holmgren. So we're going to talk about those as I pull some weeds out of the garden. Right there's a nice grass root. It's that grass plant I picked. I'm mostly concerned about grass. You can see behind me we're having tomatoes are going gangbusters. We got one, it's either a squash, a cucumber, or a pumpkin plant. I don't know, it's either pickling cucumber and a slicing cucumber or a pumpkin plant that's going crazy. The rest of them have been attacked by gophers at the fence. But anyway, so the first principle of permaculture is observe and interact. So you don't just go in and make changes to make changes or do things to do things. You observe what's going on in the ecosystem, in your backyard, wherever you're doing the design, and interact as you go. So, like, I thought the fence would work to keep the gophers out. Found some problems with the fence, and I've been fixing those. And every time I fix those, the gophers find another way in, so we worked on that. We observe the problem, interact, fix the problem. Same thing with water. Now, normally I don't like sitting on the garden beds, but to get the right angle for the live stream and stuff, I'm going to sit on one of the garden beds so I can get this big clump of grass out. So, like, the water in the front yard. So we have quail. For those of you who don't know, we have quail that tractor through the front yard. We're going to be selling the quail eggs. And we move those tractors every day. And that spreads their manure out so we don't have to clean up the manure. We can just go and mow. The grass grows, collects the manure, turns the manure into grass. Grass loves nitrogen. Then we compost that and use that for fertility elsewhere instead of having to clean up the quail manure. And on top of that, the quail get access to grass and seeds and bugs and all kinds of good stuff. So anyway, I noticed this summer that the yard tends to get brown when it hasn't rained a lot. So we put in one sprinkler that can cover the whole yard, and then we're going to add more we're going to start putting in some swale-like ditches. You won't be able to see them once the grass grows in. But I observed that there was a problem with the grass going dormant in the summer, and then it not growing and not taking up the nitrogen of the quail manure. So we've interacted with that by putting in a irrigation system, one sprinkler, and then we're going to put in those swale-like paths or contoured paths things to take the rain as it runs down off the gutters and use that to water the yard. I got a piece of trash too. I try when I pull the grass out to get as much of the grass. The grass is what I really want to get rid of. The rest of the weeds I don't like, but I really want to get rid of all the grass. as we increase our soil life and fertility. Let me move the camera. And add ground covers and stuff like that, we'll get rid of all the, or most of the other weeds. The grass is what the problem, and I let the grass get way too big. Now there's way too many roots. Alright. Another one is to store energy. So that doesn't mean necessarily like batteries for your solar system. Well, but that doesn't exclude batteries in a solar system. But it also means, so like all these weeds I'm picking out are full of all kinds of nutrients and stored energy from the plant. And all these weeds are going to get composted. So we're going to take all that energy from these roots, from this grass, and we're going to reuse it and put it in the compost, which will feed bacteria, and then those bacteria we'll use to provide nutrients back to the garden. So we're going to store like the nutrient, the energy the sun put out to grow this grass, and we're going to use that to regrow, or we're going to store that energy and then use it again, instead of just taking this grass out and burning it, or throwing it in the trash can or something like that to get rid of it. Alright, attain a yield. That's the most straightforward one. Like, what's the point in doing homesteading and permaculture stuff if you don't have a yield? If you're not producing something. Now that yield can be something you can use, or that yield can be something you can sell, or the yield is something that you can put back into the system. Like I said, we're obtaining a yield from the quail, not just in eggs we can sell and meat for us, but in nitrogen in the form of grass clippings that we can compost. And then we'll be able to use that compost in our garden and elsewhere on the homestead, and we'll be able to use that compost to sell. So obtaining a yield in multiple ways. All these weeds are going to become compost, which we'll either use or sell. So that's obtaining another yield. Some people say, like, oh, in permaculture you shouldn't, it's wrong. And in general, I've been told that making a profit off of your work is wrong, that running a profitable business is wrong because you're taking from people. Well, the same people who told me that also had jobs where they go to work. Oh, look, a ripe tomato. Where they go to work and they get a paycheck, so they're obtaining a yield too. So I don't know why those people expect other people to work for free while they don't. I don't understand why people say it's wrong for me to want to keep my money. That's selfish and greedy for me to want to keep the money I earn, but it's not selfish and greedy for them to want to take my money and give it to somebody else. Now, if I see somebody in need and I can help them, I will. I mean, the Bible's full of countless examples. Like, even Jesus talked to the Pharisees about how they tithed and they followed all the rules, but they weren't helping people as much as they should have been. So, yeah, I'll help people, but I don't think I should be forced to do that. I should do it voluntarily, because if it doesn't come from my heart, what good is it? If somebody takes my money and gives it to somebody else to help them, I'm not really helping them. It doesn't affect my heart. Yes, that person gets help, but it doesn't also benefit me any. If I take my money and give it to them, it benefits both of us. Now, these people that are saying that we should take money from other people and give it to the people who really need it, those people make themselves feel good. That's a thistle. You buy everyday carry pliers for those. They make themselves feel good, but they feel good about using the apparatus of the state to force other people to follow their will. That's not actually, that's, you are just a thief that justifies your thievery and uses other people to do the work for you. Anyway, the next principle is apply self-regulation and accept feedback. Alright. So, I could have planted more tomato plants in here and planted them closer, but if I would have done that, I wouldn't have had any room. So, I had to apply self-regulation and only plant the number of tomatoes I had room for. Now, I do plan on making the garden bigger, extending it past there for next year, but haven't gone that far yet. Same thing with the quail. The tractors are only so big, it'd be unethical for me to cram the birds in there. Now, supposedly quail can live in half a square foot as their minimum. I like to use 1 square foot as the minimum. I don't want to cram them in there too tightly. Not only does it make them more disease prone, but it's not good for the birds to be crammed in there so tight. They fight more, and so I'm applying that all self-regulation to that. Another part of that self-regulation is accepting feedback. So as you apply that regulations, those restrictions and rules you're putting on yourself, are you observing those and seeing if they hold on a second. So as you're putting those rules upon yourself, are you observing those rules and seeing that they're actually working? Now, there's people out there that say that this principle of applying self-regulation, accepting feedback, I think this is the one they say they use to be all Malthusian and say we should limit the number of people on Earth. I don't see who gets to decide. See, that's the problem with letting this grass grow longer. See, it's sending out rhizomes. I should have been pulling this grass a long time ago. That's more work for me because I didn't pull it when I should have. Look at that clump of grass roots. This is full of grass roots now. Anyway, these people that say, oh, we should set limits to the population of humans, well, who is it? How do you get to decide who lives and who dies? Who gets to reproduce and who doesn't? Do we select whole groups? Say, oh, this group doesn't get to reproduce and this group should be eliminated? Well, a man with a funny mustache tried that in the 1930s and thought we all agreed that that was a bad thing, but everybody thinks that they know more and they're smarter and they don't need to learn from our past mistakes. And setting those resources are we're not running out of resources on the planet. We're just not utilizing them well. So this is a little basket to put over the poor little my one living tiny broccoli plant. Bugs and other critters have eaten all my broccoli. which the rest of the family likes broccoli. I don't like it, but I grow it for them, or at least I tried. Anyway, so there's plenty of resources on the planet, plenty of space on the planet. We just don't use it correctly. We crowd people into cities, and then we have to create giant systems in order to support them that produce ungodly amounts of unnecessary pollution. And we do stuff like we keep cows in confined cattle operations, and then we go and hay a field and bring that hay to the cattle, then take the hay and the straw from the field to the cattle inside of a building. The cows eat the hay, crap on the straw, and then we drag that out to a third location, compost it, turn it into fertilizer, and then bring it back to the field to grow more hay and straw for the cattle, when we could just let the cattle do what cattle do and eat and live off of the in the field. And instead of dragging and burning all this fossil fuels to run trucks and machines and all this stuff to process all this, it's completely unnecessary. Again, these same people that want to limit the population of humans, they only want to limit the population of humans they don't like. They may not say it that way, but let's face it, that's what history shows. Alright. Alright, number 5 is produce no waste. Now, that doesn't mean, like, these are ideals. So I still have a trash can, but I try to limit the trash can. One of the first things we did when me and Sarah got married is I brought my composting bin with us, and we started composting all of our kitchen scraps. Also, we've been saving our Amazon boxes in order to use to put down as weed barrier around the perimeter of the garden. Stuff like that. So we do produce some waste, but we're trying to eliminate the waste we produce. So like this bucket here full of weed trimming, or weeds I'm pulling out, that could be waste for the garden, and I could burn it or whatever, throw it away like I mentioned earlier, but instead I'm going to compost it, and then so I'm using waste from one system as inputs into the next. Now, that's an ideal. Will we ever be able to achieve a perfect system with absolutely no waste? Probably not, but we should constantly be striving and moving in that direction. Alright. Use renewable resources. So, let's go talk about compost some more. And fertilizer. So, use renewable resources. So, if I go and buy some fertilizer made from rocks, let's say my garden needs more potassium. Alright, let's do this again. So, let's say my garden needs more potassium. So, I go out and I buy some high potassium fertilizer. Well, that fertilizer was made by taking acids made from petroleum, dumping them on rocks, dissolving the rocks, getting the potassium out of there, and in that potassium fertilizer is a small trace amount of uranium. Then they build these big slush pools where they dump all the waste from that product, the dissolved rocks and the sludge from the petroleum acid and all that stuff, in these big lagoons, and then on occasion they get storms. Most of these are in Florida. They'll get a storm that overflows the lagoon, and all that goo, toxic goo and pollution, including all that uranium, gets spilled out into the waterways, into the Everglades and rivers, and then into the ocean. Instead of doing that, we can use these weeds, compost them down, and this will become our fertilizer. That is a much better way of using using renewable resources. Solar panels are actually not renewable resources. They're just less unreusable. And so same things with windmills, because we don't have a good way to recycle them yet. So I'm like 20 minutes in, and I'm halfway through. I want to try to get these live streams about half an hour or so. So I think I'm going to stop here, and then next week we'll do the last 6. Which are design for patterns and details, integrate rather than segregate, use small, slow solutions, use and value diversity, use the edge and value the marginal, and creatively use and respond to change. Now these last ones, it'll be probably longer than this one, because that's when it gets to the ones I really like talking about. So I hope you find any of this useful. I hope you get out and start designing your own homestead and start being more productive on your own land. And instead of trying to pass laws to make the world better, or instead of trying to force other people to do things or whatever, start in your own backyard, making the world a better place. So remember, we prepare today so we can prosper tomorrow.